did it and you're doing it. It makes me somewhat emotional when I think about it because yeah, like I'm doing it. Like this is the one thing in my life that I've never given up on, and that I've seen it and I've wanted it, and I'm gonna keep going until it's happened, until I feel like I've succeeded. Like everyone's like, wow, you're doing it, like you're in the film. Like, yes, I'm doing it, but until my name is on a plaque that says like Isabel Diaz, special teams assistant, like whatever it is, like until my name is on a plaque and above a door, then okay, then I take a small breather and keep going.
How was your trip to Germany?
It was really good. It was quite an experience, and I think just the fact that like football brought us across the world, and here we are like playing the American game like over here, and like the fans were crazy. Like they were awesome, and they were cheering and screaming, and they sang like all the songs, and like I mean there was like 50,000 of them, I think they said, something around that number, and it was just such a cool experience to be able to do that.
I'm not sure if you'd have the answer, but what would you guess would be the ratio of Americans who travel to Germany for the game versus Europeans or Germans in attendance?
I would probably say there's more Europeans or Germans there potentially, maybe. I will also say, so it was a Patriots home game. So there was quite the Patriot fans there, and like they booed us, like running out of the tunnel. We all were like, that's just like maybe like more of a neutral game. But like then as the game went on and like we were obviously doing good, like they started being more like go Colts kind of thing. But it was yeah, I would have to say it had to be probably more people from Europe, and I also know the game like so like tickets were like gone very fast for it. Like it was an exciting thing. I think they were really excited for it. My mom was at the game too, so that was a really cool experience.
Yeah.
And she said that like walking around there was like so many different like, you know, jerseys on from different teams, and like just like getting to hear everybody, and it was just like really cool experience.
How many other games has your mom gotten to this season for the Colts?
Oh my gosh, I think the majority of them, which is amazing. It's awesome. Most of the away games she hasn't, but home games she'll try her best to get up there. I mean, coming from OSU, where she was only a 3.5-hour drive from Dallas, so she'd be, I think on my 4 years, she only missed 2 home games. And so she's always been at the games. And so now like I have even greater appreciation when she can make it up, because I'm like, this is cool to be doing this with my mom. Like for her to be at my first regular season home game, that was really cool. So yeah, she tries to make it, and then going to Germany, and I think I think one of my coaches last year sat me down. I always be like, oh, I have to get this ticket and do all these other things. And he's like, well, just wait until like your family, like you'll see the appreciation for it, like having them there with you. And now see my mom go to Germany, and like she was sending me pictures of her doing all these fun little things around the town, and she had all her Colts gear on, and like now I have like, wow, like, this is amazing that I'm loving my job and getting experiences, and I'm experiencing it with my mom as well, which just makes it even better.
Did she go by herself?
No, she has her partner with her. His name is Chris, and he comes up to the games as well. I have an amazing support system between them and my grandfather and my friends and everything. So she was with her partner Chris, and they just had a blast. So
you mentioned your grandfather. He is a huge reason why you are in coaching now.
Yes.
What is the backstory of how you got into your passion for coaching?
It truly started as a fandom and loving the game. My grandfather, we'd wake up every Sunday morning, because my mom's a flight attendant. So I'd spend a lot of time with my grandparents at their house. And my grandma and grandpa would all hang out, and my grandpa would have the newspaper with like coffee and donuts. And if there's donuts there, I'm going to be sitting down. So I sat down and I kind of started asking more questions like, oh, who are like this team and that team and whatnot, and then carried over to us going on the couch and watching Fox NFL Sunday with like Michael Strahan and Howie Long and like and Jimmy Johnson, like all those guys like on TV, and then the games. And I think I just fell in love with the game. And then I got to a point where that's all I knew on my Sundays and Mondays and Thursday nights. And I asked my mom, I said, well, can I play the game? And she was like, no. I was like, what? I think you also had to think about it too at that time, like how flag football is now for women, for boys and girls. And growing up, it wasn't around at that for me. So for my mom to say no, I understood. I got it. Like, I know I'm tiny. I'm going to go out there and get broken. So I was like, well, I'll just coach. But it really truly came from the fan love and just loving the game and loving learning about it and being a student of the game. And there's so many different aspects to learn and grow and know. So yeah.
What team did you cheer for growing up?
Oh, well, I was a Steelers fan.
In Dallas.
In Dallas. My family's from New York. So
Pittsburgh Steelers,
yeah,
sure.
it totally makes sense. My grandpa was a Giants fan all his life, and then they moved down here right when they had my mom, and so he never became. We call it the Cowboys or the Cowgirls in my household. Like, we never liked them. And then Troy Polamalu, number 43, safety for Steelers, came on the TV, and his hair. I was like, oh, I love his hair. And then like I learned more about the team, and that was when I was like in first or second grade. Like I fell in love with Troy Polamalu's hair, and then next thing you know, here I am falling in love with the Steelers as an organization, and Mike Tomlin and the Rooney family. And then I started to go to games like every other year with my grandfather, and now he's a Steelers fan. I mean, obviously Colts now. We are a Colts family, and I think the fandom aspect has kind of gone down for me. But yeah, Steelers is the team. So we're playing them this year, and I'm like so excited to have, it's like a full circle moment for me. Like I'm my first year coaching, and now I'm coaching against the Steelers. Like that's so cool. My grandpa's going to make it up to that game, and I'm very excited. So
that's going to be so fun.
Yes.
We're going to get into your whole role with the Colts. I want to stick to growing up, getting into coaching. Your mom said, no, you can't play football.
Yes.
However, that did not stop you from getting involved with your high school team. What was your involvement with them? So
8th grade year, I emailed the head coach, Brian Brazel, who he has recently passed away. So I'm very, grateful for him and what he's done for me. But emailed him, and he was like, well, you're a little trailblazer. He'd always call me a little trailblazer. And I was like, Coach, I'm just trying to coach ball. I'm just trying to just be here and learn. And he was so great and so fantastic. And he said, well, come on and, start in video. So as a freshman, I also cheered in high school. Let's keep that in mind. So it wasn't like the easiest schedule to be doing football and cheer. So I would go spend my mornings filming practices, and then I got close with the coaching staff there. And the OC, Jeff Hill, I looked at him and I was like, well, I want more. I want to go coaching. Like I am video, I'm loving this. It's a great aspect to learn from, but I really want to coach. And so he was like, well, why don't you come join our game planning meetings on the weekends? He got the okay from everybody. And I walked in the offensive staff and sat down with the running backs coach, kind of took me under his wing, Robert Vaughn. And he was like, all right, let's go. Like, let's learn the basics here. And like, I'll never forget one of the coaches sitting down with me and saying it's going to be like learning a new language. And I was like, okay, like, sure, let's do it. So I learned a new language, and it was football, and I loved it. So I got in game plan meetings and progressed from there, where then by my junior year, I was kind of more like, obviously in high school, your schedule is not as free as you would have at college or different levels. So I would go in when I could in morning practices and just kind of more shadow. At that point, shadow the offensive line coach, shadow the running backs coach. And then my senior year, I was like, okay, well, I need experience. I'm not going to go to college without coach. Like I could coach middle school, I could coach flag football. I don't care. Like I want to have experience in doing this. So they got me in contact with our middle school feeder school, Killian Middle School. And I helped out with our 7th and 8th grade teams. And it was a blast. Like at that age, like they're just excited to be out there and playing, and they want to learn, and they were super respectful, and like it was just great, like having that experience with that coaching staff. Coach Mendez is fantastic. He's the head coach for them, and he was fantastic and so helpful. So yeah, I helped get into coaching there. So that was my high school experience, was cheering on the sidelines on Friday nights, and then during the week going to practices when I could. And yeah, it was fun. I loved it. And it was a great stepping stone to the fact this is really what I kind of saw a little bit of the time commitment, obviously not as much as I did once I got to college. But yeah, it was super awesome. And to have that experience and be really, I always said I wanted to do it. It was third grade when I said I'm coaching football. That's what I want to do with my life. And my mom, I think everyone kind of was holding their breath, okay, something's going to change. It never did. But I didn't pursue it until I was older, when I started seeing other women coaches kind of breaking that mold, with Catherine Smith at the Buffalo Bills and Jen Welter with the Cardinals. And they were all fellowships or internships, but seeing them do it, I was like, okay, I can do it. I got this. Which, did I necessarily need to see somebody do it? No, because I was determined to do it. But seeing it was okay, you have to see it to believe it.
It helps.
It helps a ton. And that's why I think now being able to do things like this, for showing hey, doing it. You can do it. We can all do it. Like, and just for it to become somewhat of a normalcy of like, it's just, I'm just coaching football. I'm just coaching football just like any other coach is coaching football. And I love it as much as anybody else does.
You said something interesting to me when you were talking to the high school coaches. They said it's going to be like learning a new language. Mm-hmm. Football is a very complex game. When you really sit down and analyze it, it's very complex. What were the challenges of learning the game while in those meetings with the coaches?
I think finding where to start and finding that starting piece of like, because there's so much to learn and grasp. And so that's when I looked at the coaches, like, I need a starting, like, you got to tell me where to start. Like, you know, when you learn a language, you're learning hi, my name is, and hello, and how are you? It's like, well, where's my hi, my name is? And they were like, well, why don't we start, like, we started O-line and went out with it, which was nice, because then that's where you're learning, like, the protections, the pass block, the run game, and then kind of going back to the running backs, which that's where it was a piece where you're in the run game and the pass game, which is crazy talking about now. It's like, I somehow I landed on defense, and then now I'm on special teams. Like, I landed so many different areas. But yeah, that was the most challenging piece of it, because I'm someone where there wasn't a playbook for this. There still isn't a playbook. I'm still trying to figure it out. And so that's one of those moments where I was like, I'm not always gonna have instructions on how to go about this, and it's gonna be how I wanna go about it. And so just be like, okay, well, I think that's the best way to start. Like, once we all talked through it, and it was like, okay, let's start O-line, go and move out. With my time there and the times I was going through it, I didn't really necessarily get as further out as I wanted when it came to like learning wide receivers and quarterbacks. But yeah, that was the challenging piece, just finding that beginning. And then once it all connects and like you start going through it, Bradley Thomas here, he would tell me, he's like, you don't know it until like you can teach it. Like, if you can teach it, then you know it and you can speak about it, like, and you're learning it. So he'd always push me to like, you got to speak, you got to coach it up, talk me through it, act like I know nothing. And so if I started acting like the person I talked to knew nothing, then I can see where I'm at and how much I know versus what you know. So yeah, it was, learning new languages. And it's learning new language everywhere you go. Because you have your base terms, but everyone has their own way of saying things. And so then it's like, okay, how do I connect this piece with that piece? And I just been waiting for the light bulb to click sometimes, and you got to speak through it a couple times. And I'm a visualizer as well. So that's also a challenge, like just figuring out how I was going to learn it. It's like when you walk into class, you got to figure out how am I going to succeed in this class? How am I going to succeed in learning what I was learning?
Coach Nardo has said the same thing, where teaching the 3-3-5 to the coaches here, they all know football. He knows they know football, but they use different terms. So how do you teach your schemes and your concepts to people who know the game, but in words that they understand that you might not understand?
Yes, and that's where you then get the most amazing discussions, because then you're just like, then you're talking through it, like, this is how I see it, this is how I see it. And then like, you find that middle ground where you both can see it, and it's like, wow. Like, or it's like, we're saying the same thing, just 1,000 different words. Like, we can cut it down. Like, I was here in the spring, which was an amazing experience to see Coach Nardo come in and start to learn it through and talk it through. And I was with the defensive backs at that time, so learning with Coach Hammerschmidt, and both of us going like, well, this is the same term as this term. Like, it was like trying to connect, and we originally started to be like, okay, these are our old terms, this is what the new terms are. It's like, no, let's just start from scratch, or all the same boat. It's fun seeing. That's the beauty of football too, is when you all come together and you have these really good discussions. And sometimes an outside piece looks like you're arguing back and forth, but really you're just like trying to talk through it. I mean, I'm seeing that right now with the special teams and the staff that I'm on right now. It's like we're all talking through things, and sometimes, yes, they get into like more of a heated argument, but it's a good heated argument, and it comes out with a good piece that's going to help the players. Because at some point you have to stop and be like, what's going to help them succeed? What are they going to need from us, and how can we make it as simple for them to go out there on Sundays or Saturdays and win a game? So.
How did you end up at Oklahoma State?
Okay, so I gave the coaches at Hebron High School, which is where I was from, I said, these are the colleges I'm looking at, and if any of these colleges come, I need to know. And I wanted to go see the coach. And sure enough, it was spring, and the first spring practice, Coach Dan Hammerschmidt came down from Oklahoma State, and I'll never forget getting called during lunch period from the OC, and he was like, hey, Oklahoma State will be at practice this afternoon. I was like, okay, great, sounds good. I ended cheer practice and I sprinted down to the field house. I saw the orange polo and went right up to him. And my like coaches are like behind me, like trying to come introduce, like help me get introduced. And at that point, my hand was already like shaking his. And I was like, hi, my name is Isabel and I want to be in your shoes one day. And he was like kind of taken back. And I was like, I want to coach football. And he was like, okay, all right. And like at that point, the other coaches are coming up. And that's how I met Coach Hammerschmidt. And we built a really good relationship. And he asked me like, okay, where do we want to start? And I was like, well, I did film in high school. Like, I think I'd be a good starting point. And he said, that'd be a good starting point as well. And like, it was also really cool that I came up in the season, I think it was my junior year. And so I came up to the game here and I met with like different departments just to kind of see like what was going to be a good starting ground. Film was the correct choice. And I'm so glad that I started with Zach Ramsey, and his staff was fantastic and it was so fun. And that's how I got to OSU. And they have a sport and coaching science major. I believe it's now a minor, but at the time it was a major. And so for me, it was like, whoa, I'm majoring in coaching. Like that was fantastic. My grandpa actually showed me that. He printed out the article and he was like, look, like they have a coaching major. And I was like, oh, okay, like this is interesting. Like, does the degree works and whatnot? So this sounds fantastic. So everything kind of just lined up and I put all my eggs in one basket, applied to Oklahoma State and hope it worked out. And thankfully it did. So that's how I ended up here at Oklahoma State.
You started with film. Eventually you moved up to a student assistant coach. When did you make that switch?
My spring of my sophomore year. So I did 2 football seasons in film. And in that time, Coach Hammerschmidt allowed me to come sit in the back of his safety meetings. And so I would be in the back corner of my notebook, just like taking notes and learning another language at that point. I'm like, I've never been on defense side of the ball. It's gonna be interesting. And it was super fun and learned, just kind of took notes. And I finally sat down with him at the end of the season, my sophomore year. And I was like, okay, I want to transition. Like I want to go through the next set of doors. And he was like, okay, like that sounds like a good idea. Like he was like, let me talk to Coach Knowles. Like we'll talk to the GAs, like kind of just get something rolling. And they were all on board. And so at that time, our GAs was Coy McFarland, Mike Hunter and Coy, and Mike took me under their wing. And then I started learning the tools that make, a student assistant and GAs and all of us support staff like well. So I learned Exos and Excel and Visio and Power. Like I knew all those things, but like, okay, what do we need them for? And so that was fun, learning all of those different pieces of how it works. And I really had no clue what I was getting myself into, if I'm being honest. Like I knew I wanted to coach and I've seen them do it, but I didn't really know the hours. And like, it's almost like people think you just walk out there on Saturdays or you just walk out to practice and things are just there. Like there's little minions, I guess you could call it, like up here, like going crazy, getting scout cards together and making the scripts and all these other pieces. And so that's where I learned all of that and the time commitment that it was. And so, but yeah, that was my sophomore spring. I did the spring and then I was like, okay, like this is awesome. Like I'm loving this. I'm thriving. This is exactly where I want to be. It's exactly what I want to be doing. I want to learn as much as I can. And Coach Knowles was the DC at the time and he was awesome and so supportive. And I'll never forget, I kind of kept asking like, hey, can I come sit in this meeting? Can I come sit in that meeting? And every time he'd be like, okay or whatnot. And then one time he came into like the GA cave and he was like, you're in the submarine. We were all in the submarine. Stop asking me about coming. Like you're here, you're in it. And I was like, okay, sounds good. And like ever since then I was like a part of the staff meetings and a part of whatever like defensive unit meetings and whatnot. Like I became like a little fly on the wall and just learned whatever I could.
What do you remember about your first interaction with Coach Gundy?
So that was my freshman year filming. I would say maybe one of the first reactions I can remember was maybe walking out to practice one day, or either I was walking in or he was walking out. I forgot. But I remember just saying like, oh, like good practice today or something really simple. I was like, oh, okay, I gotta say something. I gotta make sure like, hello, you almost like, hi. And I think that was really it. But I didn't have, in film, there wasn't as many interactions I possibly could have with him. But every time I did see him, I'd always be like, oh, it was a good practice today. Or, oh, like, hope you're having a great day. Or just like make as small talk as I possibly could. But those were little interactions with Coach Gundy.
How did the team react when you became a student assistant coach? The first female student assistant coach in school history.
They were all supportive. And it was a smooth transition. in that fact, I think me being around the guys at that time, by the time I made that transition, in the safety room at least, the guys knew who I was and what I was doing and what my goal was, because Coach Hammerschmidt and I were very honest with them in what I was doing and who I am. And so they were all super supportive and excited. It was kind of almost like it just was so smooth, it didn't really get a crazy reaction from it. It was like, oh, she went from video girl to now she's coaching us. Like, and it was good. It was great. And I think also too, I approached it in the fact of, at that point, Bradley Thomas is like, he's our offensive analyst that works with the defense, and he helps with the scout team and kind of getting that organized. And he was like, well, you're coaching wide, like you're going to help the scout team wide receivers. And I was like, okay, sounds good. At that point, I had not touched wide receivers. So I kind of walked into it with, if I'm as open with them in the fact of like, I'm asking you questions, ask me questions, like let's have an open conversation here and like work together on this. And then by my senior year, or even the middle of my junior year, I was extremely confident in what I was doing. And it's because the guys were super helpful in the fact of, I'm learning this, you're learning this, we're in it together. And it went well, and it went smooth. And I'd never really had problems with the guys. They were all super respectful. And I think that all started with Coach Gundy. And Coach Gundy just saying like, this is like, as I'm called here, Bella is here to coach. This is what she wants to do. Like we respect her, we support her, and we see that, you know, she's capable of doing this. And like, let's all be there for her. And it was. And I think starting from the top and going down, and all the coaches again were so supportive and so willing to help me. I think that the guys saw that, and they were supportive and willing to help me succeed. And where I'm at now is because of what I did here and who I was around and what I learned and the support stuff that I had.
You graduated in May. What are some of the other internships or jobs you've had in coaching outside of Oklahoma State?
So I was a part of the NFL Women's Forum in 2023 and 2022, which is almost like think of it as a big networking event for women. There's 45 participants selected, and you get put in front of NFL executives from player personnel, from coaching, ownership, GMs, whatever you can think of. So I was a part of that. And then through that, I got a Bill Walsh Diversity Coaching Fellowship with the Washington Commanders this spring, May 2022. So that's spring, and then also training camp with them. So I held that position, and that was kind of getting my feet wet with like seeing what the NFL was like. And I was like, okay, this is like almost kind of reassuring. This is what I wanted to continue to pursue. And so that was my 2 internships, or the Women's Forum, I wouldn't say is an internship, but I guess being a part of it and participant of it. And then my internship was with the Commanders.
You got to consult with head coach Ron Rivera during the 2022 draft, talked up Malcolm Rodriguez, Devin Harper, Christian Holmes. What did it mean to you when they ended up drafting Christian Holmes?
That was a really cool experience. And to be kind of a part of it on that day, I'm just extremely proud of Christian Holmes and like what he did, and like, you know, everything that he was here is transitioning to what he is there in the Commanders, and just to be really proud of him and support him, and to have been a voice in that room to help be, you know, reassure everything that they saw, I saw as well in him. And so just to have that reassurance for them that, you know, this is exactly what y'all are seeing and what you wrote up, and that's true. And it was really cool. I would have never guessed that my phone would have rang and Ron Rivera was calling me to ask me about Malcolm Rodriguez, Devin Harper, and Christian Holmes. Like, I was like, whoa, like that's happening right now. Like, okay. And I was like pacing around my house. I was at home because it was like a Saturday. I think it was like day 2 or 3 of the draft. And I was like, wow, that's where I saw when he spoke about in the Women's Forum about valuing everyone's opinion in that room. That's the first time that I saw it. He values everyone. Like, I am the lowest man on the totem pole at that point. I am an intern for him, and he valued my opinion and valued what I thought. And I was like, that made me even more excited to get up there in May and work with him and his staff, because that immediately off the bat, like that's what he spoke about, and to see it. And that was just a really cool. And then also to speak about these guys I've been around for 4 years, and to see their success and how they've grown and who they are as players out there on the field and who they are also outside of the field. Like, it was a really amazing experience to be a part of. And I'm super, super proud of all of them and what they're doing, their success right now.
You're currently with the Colts. How did you end up in Indianapolis?
So through the Women's Forum this past year, the Women's Forum is it's literally, we call it the pipeline. It is truly the pipeline because here I am. I'm pipelining myself through it. Through the Women's Forum, I met Carly Irsay Gordon, one of our owners for the team, and John Park, who was our director of analytics at the time. I met them through the forum and had a breakout session with them. And they both spoke about the Tony Dungy coaching fellowship that they have, which is a fellowship for one side on the offense, one coach on the offense and one coach in the defense. That's a minority. And they take them on for a full year. So it's almost an extension of the Bill Walsh Diversity Coaching Fellowship. And so they were like, why don't you apply for this? And I was like, that sounds great. Like, that's right up my alley. Because at that point, I knew I was graduating in May. I got to find a job. Like, I was like, I need a full year thing. Like, I would love any opportunity that I could have, but I am looking for 1 year. And they're like, this is perfect. So I applied for that. And it was around spring break that I got the phone call from Gus Bradley, the defensive coordinator for the Colts. And he was like, hey, like, it's so great to meet you. Like, we'd love to do a Zoom, like, and go through the interview process with you. And I was like, wow, okay, this is, yes, I'm in. So I got that phone call on Saturday, did a Zoom call on Monday, was on a flight on Tuesday, and did it in person on Wednesday. Like, it was a whirlwind, and it still is a whirlwind, because then through that, I did not get the Tony Dungy, but they created the Harriet P. Irsay, which is what I am now. And that was with Carly, and I had many discussions about it, and the fact that she said, minorities in football have all the same challenges, but I think women have just a little bit more of a challenge in certain areas. And so for us now to have an opportunity where it's just for women, it's just a women's fellowship that only can apply, and you can either go operations or coaching with it. I'm obviously coaching, but to have that experience, and for her, she wanted to create this vision of it just being this really amazing opportunity where you're with coaches that can, take time to mentor you and help you grow and learn. And I'm under a 1 year, just like a Tony Dungy is. And so that was just perfect, and it worked out really well. I mean, I got the call April 15th from Carly that, that's when she offered me the job. That was a month from me graduating. I graduated, got in the car the next day with my mom on Mother's Day, and we were driving up to Indianapolis, and I started my job. Like, that was that whirlwind where I didn't have time to really process anything going on, but I trusted the process, because I spent my whole senior year, I will always be honest with people, in the fact that I was always so concerned what was next. I was where my feet was at, but I was always like, okay, what? I want to keep coaching. This is what I want to do. Like, I'm loving this. Like, what's going to be next? And so then it was like, I kind of got so wrapped up in the fact of like, what was next? I didn't really truly, myself didn't enjoy every aspect of my last year. And then to go through it and just be like, okay, I got to just trust what people are telling me and trust this process. Because I interviewed at that point for GAs, I was applying for anything I possibly could. And I was asking for help from everybody on our staff. Like, okay, what should I do? Where should I go? Looked at the XFL, looked at college, at any level of college ball I was willing to do. Like, if you'd have sat me down last year and told me, hey, you're going to be in the NFL next year, I would have laughed in your face. I would have like, yeah, sure. Like, no way out of college I'm in the NFL, and here I am. And it all worked out, and I trust the process.
What is your exact role? You're there with the fellowship. What are you doing with the team?
So I am in special teams. I'm almost like a special teams quality control. So we have Brian Mason, who's our special teams coordinator, and then Joe Hastings, our special teams assistant, and there's me. And so my job is to make their life as easy as I possibly can, and then to help wherever I can with the players. So our normal week would look like, helping with advanced scouting report, which I did that here, and I absolutely loved doing advanced scouting reports. It was like something I was super proud of here that I'm now able to do there. I'm like, I love this. So helping prep for the next team, and then helping with our scout cards. And I got really good at Visio and learning that program and getting comfortable with that. So do all of our scout cards, and then at practice and help running the scout team, keeping us on track, and then getting our practice scripts ready. So a lot of the things that I did here, I'm doing there. And it's been a really good transition, and it's helped me because I don't want to say comfortable, but I'm confident in what I can do, because I've learned it all here, and I had my tools in my toolbox. I transitioned there. And then when it comes to game day, I'm on the sidelines, and I'm charting our calls, what the opponent team is doing, and then the opponent players, like where they line up on the field, which is always a fun experience, like trying to find their numbers. And because I can study our depth charts that we create of them throughout the week, and then it's like, okay, well, are they going to match what we planned for? So that's kind of a mix of what I do, and then getting cut-ups ready and just honestly, seriously making Brian and Joe's life easy. Like whatever they need, I'm there, and I'm wanting to be there and wanting to learn. And that, again, going back to what Carlene talked about that's why I'm with special teams, because it's a place where Brian's coming from it's his first year in the NFL. He's just coming from college. He was a special teams coordinator for Notre Dame. And then Joe has played in the league, and he's been there now for 4 years. And so to have their experience, and for Brian and I kind of be in that same boat. And then now I also have Coach Shane Steichen, who it's his first NFL head coaching job. And so just to learn all of this and to be in that environment, it's just been amazing. And Brian and Joe have been so helpful. Like if I didn't have them and they weren't as helpful as they are, like I think I would be treading water way more than what I am now. Like, I mean, it's obviously a lot to learn and grow, but I feel like I'm doing okay. I'm hanging in there.
What are the challenges of being a woman in a male-dominated industry?
I think not allowing yourself, not like, how do I word this? It's like not saying that, like, yes, I'm outnumbered, like being a woman in that room, but I'm not going to let that stop me from being successful at my job and for doing it really well. And so the challenge is just like keeping my focus and just doing me and not letting outside factors of it being a male-dominated industry. And if I'm being honest, I really don't feel like I've had too many challenges, because everyone I've worked with has been so supportive and so like, okay, like this is what we're doing and we're here to help you and support you and grow from there, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
On saying that. So yeah.
What's your message to other women or little girls who want to pursue a career in the coaching industry or just the sports industry in general?
So my favorite quote is, "She believed she could, so she did." And I would say that to anyone. Like, obviously everyone says, don't let anybody stop you. And people are going to stop you, but you have to keep going. And like, for me, I love a door analogy. Like I said that for me, it's like I knocked on the door. So I had to knock on the door so many times. And then once the door opened, I had 1 foot in. And then I had 2 feet in, being a part of meetings or whatever I kept growing with. And now I had a seat at the table. So we all deserve to have a seat at the table. It's just, and it's not going to go exactly how you want it to go. Whatever you think is going to happen is not going to happen. Like, just trust the process. And once you get in there, just showing that you're valuable and that your voice and what you have to say is important and should be heard. And so that's my message, just to keep going and keep knocking on that door and allow it to open. Once it opens, don't take it for granted, and to be a sponge and absorb everything you possibly can.
What's the ultimate goal with your coaching career?
I've always said this, and I will always say it, is I want to be a head coach in the NFL one day. That is my goal. And I will continue to pursue that, whatever path it takes, but that is the end goal in it all.
You have the drive, you have the passion. I can 100% see that.
Thank you.
What would you tell the little third grader who would sit with her grandfather and eat donuts and watch football if she could see you today?
You did it, and you're doing it. It makes me somewhat emotional when I think about it, because yeah, like I'm doing it. Like, this is the one thing in my life that I've never given up on, and that I've seen it and I've wanted it, and I'm gonna keep going until it's happened, until I feel like I've succeeded. Like, everyone's like, wow, you're doing it, like you're in the NFL. I'm like, yes, I'm doing it, but until my name is on a plaque that says like Isabel Diaz, special teams assistant, like whatever it is, like until my name is on a plaque and above a door, then okay, then I can take a small breather and keep going. But yeah, wow, it's amazing. And to have little full circle moments. Like, for me, I was at the combine in March for the women's forum, and then now here I am working with the Colts. Like, it was crazy. And like, to be on that field and like, wow, here I am doing it. Like, you have to take a minute. Coach Thurm here at the OSU always told me you have to take a minute and like absorb it and like, you know, really see what you're doing. Like, okay, like every game, before a game, I would sit there and like just kind of like breathe for a second and be like, wow, here I am. And so I'm still doing that now, what I'm doing in the NFL. And like, I even like walk laps before the game. I walk like, I think 3 miles or something like that. I have like a thing I do on my watch. But when I'm doing that, I'm listening to Beyonce's Renaissance album. I'll always listen to that every game day because it's so empowering. And I just take a minute to be like, wow. Like, I think I sometimes could get caught up in the moment and just to appreciate it. Because yeah, I was in 3rd grade looking at everyone saying I'm going to coach football, and then here I am doing it. And I'm absolutely loving it. And I feel like this is exactly what I was called to do and exactly where I want to be. And I'm learning so much about myself, and I'm just going to keep going. But yeah, looking back at her and being like, wow, like I always say little Iz would be screaming. Little Iz would be like, whoa, like this is so cool. Like you're here. Like, yeah, I would never believe. And to have met the people I've met and be with the players and see them learn and grow with them. I love seeing the rookies, and because I look at myself as I'm a rookie and they're a rookie, and we're going through the process and going through some of the same challenges and navigating, the adult things in life outside of football and having those conversations with them and whatnot. So it's really cool to see that and be a part of that.